Hey everyone, the US Senior Championship is happening right now, and this game particularly caught my eye. It's between Jaan Ehlvest and Joel Benjamin, and here White actually blundered on move 5, but then somehow amazingly managed to get right back into the game and gain a draw. So definitely worth going through, it's very interesting. So in the game, Ehlvest played e4, Benjamin played e5, and we get knight f3, knight c6, knight c3 and knight to f6. Here White played a very rare and interesting move, just playing g3, so the idea is just to play bishop g2 maybe, and fianchetto the bishop, and then castle, and develop quite normally. Benjamin played bishop c5, and typically here White should now probably just play bishop g2, and then Black can play d6, White can play d3, and typically in other games they've played a6 here and just castles, and both sides have got relative equality and developed the pieces quite nicely. But no, White didn't go for this. Instead, White actually had a bit of excuse the pun, a senior moment right here. He played knight takes e5. And the idea is that if after knight takes e5, White can play d4 and just simply win back the piece. But this doesn't work in this position due to this g3 move that's just been played. Because here actually Black can play bishop takes d4. And if queen takes d4, knight f3 check would win the queen. So White's actually gone very wrong. So after knight takes e5, Benjamin actually just took straight away on e5, and Ehlvest obviously realised he can't play d4 in this position. So amazing, White's already blundered a piece, and is just simply a piece down in this position. Ehlvest now played f4, so attacks the knight to try and gain some sort of counterplay by pushing all these pawns up. But I think Black here should just play knight c6 and play it really simple. After knight c6, if White plays e5, Black can actually just castle, and this is actually what the commentary team for the US Senior Championships was saying. After castles, if he takes f6, Black actually has rook e8 check. If bishop e2, Black could start now opening up lines with d5 and threaten to play bishop to g4 ideas, followed by d4. h3 is probably the only move to save White, but after queen takes f6, Black's going to threaten to play queen d4 and queen f2. So your White is in an absolutely devastatingly bad position right here. If d3, queen d4, threatening queen f2 check, queen d2, queen f2, king d1 and queen g2, Black's just picking up loads of material, attacking the rook and attacking his pawn. Also this bishop is attacking h3. White's in an absolutely terrible position and they can't even castle. After f4 though, Benjamin played a nice move anyway, played knight f to g4. So Black gives back a knight, but Black is still the exchange up and has a lot of ideas coming up now. So Benjamin plays bishop f2, check. King e2 is the only move, so straight away Black's just stopped White from castling. And with the king on e2, it's not exactly great because his bishop and queen are really going to suffocate now. Bishop d4 was another good move from Black. Ehlvest played knight to b5, attacking the bishop. But before moving it, Black now calmly plays knight to f2, attacking the queen and the rook at the same time. White's forced to play queen to e1, and Black now just drops the bishop back to b6. So still Black's threatening to take the rook on h1, but if this rook moves to g1, Black can play d5, threatening to play moves like bishop g4, and already knight takes e4 can be played as well. If White plays d4 to numb this bishop on b6, Black can just play knight takes e4. So rook g1 would offer no salvation for White in this type of position. Instead Ehlvest now played d4, so the idea is that White's trying to gain compensation by getting a nice pawn centre. But Black now just takes on h1, so takes the rook off, and just looks to be a solid piece up basically. Bishop e3 is played, so White's developing, protecting this d4 pawn, and Benjamin plays a6 to kick this knight away off b5. The knight moves back to c3, and Black plays d6, so opens up this white squared bishop on c8. After captures, the queen captures, and White now plays knight to d5, threatening maybe to take the bishop on b6, or maybe even play bishop f4 ideas. But Black, I think, does the sensible thing, plays bishop g4 check, the king moves to d2. And here I think actually Black should just play bishop a5 with check. After c3, they can play c6, attacking the knight. If the knight moves to f4, black can continue with c5, and again this pawn d4 is pinned by this queen. So with d5, black can now play g5, which is a really nice move and just undermines white's position even more. And the knight is actually forced back into some sort of terrible position like knight g2 or even knight d3, just blocking in more pieces. Black's got a very nice game here. In the game though, Benjamin played c6. This isn't a bad move. So after c6, white now took on b6, and of course black wins their piece back by playing queen b4 check, king d3 and queen takes b6. So black's now threatening to take on b2, and for this reason Ehlvest played b3. So let's just analyse what's happening here. So white's got 2 extra pawns in the centre, but black is actually a rook up, so essentially 3 pawns up, or 3 points up. And you feel that if black manages to just get these 2 rooks into the game, they're doing very well indeed. Benjamin now played f5, trying to open up lines. But this actually allows white to play e5 and gain a passed pawn, which might become useful in the later game. Bishop g2 is actually touted as the best move by Stockfish, but I'm not sure about this because after bishop g2, f takes e4 check, king c3, black can play queen a5, after king b2 just trade off the queens, and knight takes g3, h takes, black can play bishop f3 and go into this endgame. And this is just a simple win for black, to be honest. And maybe black wanted to end up with something like this. If they trade queens, black's pretty much won the game. But Ehlvest played e5, bishop f3 was played by Joel Benjamin, protected the knight on h1, king d2 was played, and castle's queenside from Benjamin. So now black has this nice rook bearing down on white, and black could even potentially play rook takes d4 at some point. For this reason it seemed that white played c3. So black played c5, again just attacking this d4 pawn. And to be honest, black should win this game. King c2 is played, captures, and black plays king b8 here. White plays king b2 to find some solace off this c file. And here, actually black went really wrong. And it's really hard to see how black's losing this position. But it's all to do with this bishop on e3 actually, and this pawn on d4. So black just needs to watch out for this. So any move like bishop d5 would have been absolutely fine for black. It just prevents white from trying to launch these pawns up the board. Play could continue queen d2. After rook c8, rook e1, rook he8, king a1 and queen c6. Black's got a fine game and they should be able to convert this. For instance, queen c3 is a big threat, trying to swap queens. Basically, if black swaps queens, they should be doing absolutely fine. In this position, black can also now just play rook takes d4. If bishop takes d4, queen takes, again, black's doing absolutely fine now. They're basically just a whole piece up. If queen c3, takes, and knight f2. Yeah, black's just a piece up in this game and easily converted. After rook takes d4, maybe queen c3 can be played, so black doesn't have to trade straight away. But after rook hg8, you've got to say black's doing incredibly well once again. So it's really hard to see how black managed to mess this up. But after king b2, Joel Benjamin now played bishop to e4. And this just gives white an incredible advantage in the centre. So Ehlvest now played the best move, he played d5. So after d5, bishop e3 is a discovered attack on the queen, and the queen is now forced to move. So black played queen to c7 here, and after d6, attacking the queen once again, queen d7 is played to stop the momentum of these 2 pawns advancing up the board. But amazingly now, white has an incredible +3 advantage judging by Stockfish's rating. And this is just due to these 2 central pawns. We always say if we manage to get 2 pawns on the 6th rank, it's actually worth more than a rook, because the rooks can't stop them, depending on the position obviously. But here Ehlvest now played queen b4, maybe threatening bishop a6 ideas, or just simply bishop c4 ideas, and pushing this e6 pawn up the board. Benjamin played rook c8, and here bishop c4 could have been played and threatening e6 and putting these 2 pawns on the 6th rank. If rook takes c4, B takes c4, and white still has the advantage. Black's pretty much forced to play rook d8 to stop the momentum of this e6 push. And after rook d1, white's just in a 1 position. Mainly because this knight can't get out, and these pawns are advancing very easily for white, and maybe even bishop b6 or queen b6 ideas are coming, so black's in a very terrible position all of a sudden. In the game, white played queen b6, threatening queen a7 checkmate. Benjamin played rook to c2, and king a3 was played, and after Benjamin played king c8, a draw was actually agreed. However, if you run this through an engine, it actually says that white is clearly winning this position. So it's weird that they've agreed a draw in this position. I think psychology has a lot to do with this, because Ehlvest was losing all the way through and suddenly finds himself in a better position, so just takes the draw. But in fact, here, rook d1 is just clearly winning for white. This is due to the fact that e6 can be played next move, and then if queen takes e6, obviously d7 can be pushed even further up the board. So yeah, it's really hard to see what black can do in this position. If I move like knight to f2, let's say, just bishop takes, rook takes, and then just play e6. If queen takes, then queen c7 is mate. So after e6, what can black do? Well, if queen to d8, white can just play d7 check. After king b8 takes, and just e7, white's in a totally 1 position. So after rook d1, again, it's very hard to find moves for black now. Rook c6 was an option I was thinking of, but then just queen a7 threatening mate on a8. King d8 can be played, of course, but then if white just plays bishop c4, again the threat is just e6, and white's just in a totally 1 position. So it's amazing to see how black just messed up that game. In one move they went from absolutely winning to absolutely losing from this bishop to e4 move. It doesn't even look that serious. I just think this is incredible. After d5, white's just totally winning. Queen c7 and d6. Yeah, it was just an amazing turnaround, and amazing that they agreed a draw after king c8. So actually Ehlvest missed 2 moves in this game. They missed the win with rook d1 here, and they also missed knight takes e5, loses a piece early in the opening. Anyway, I just thought this was a very striking game that stuck out. I hope you enjoyed the commentary and analysis, and hopefully see you in the next video. Thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.